Hello guys, I'm Bethany and welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you're here and I'm sorry that my voice sounds like a man. I guess I'm sick again, I don't really know. I went to the doctor, got medicine, antibiotic, I finished my antibiotic, and now I sound like this again. So I don't really know what's going on, but I'm very excited about today's video because it's going to be all the books that I read in 2022. So I read 92 books in 2022, so I have a lot of books to go through, but I'm gonna try to do this very speedy. So I'm just gonna tell you the title, the author, my rating initially, and my rating now if I change it, because there's very likely going to be a lot of changing of ratings as we read these, or as we go through these books. The more distance you have after reading a book, does that make any sense? Yeah, I think it does. It kind of determines your rating because you like, are you still thinking about it or you're not still thinking about it? You know what I mean? So my rating very likely will change. Also, I have all my physical copies here. I put them on my book cart because it makes it easier to see them and I can just pull them out and show you. But I also read, honestly, most of the books this year on my Kindle, ebooks, through the library or something like that. So a lot of them probably will be on the screen. I have my notes from each month because I like wrote in my notes every month what books I read. So I'm gonna go through each month, but a couple months I didn't read. Sometimes in each month I would read a series, but I didn't read it in consecutive order, and I'm just gonna talk about the series and then move on. Okay, let's continue. Or let's start. We haven't even started. Okay, let's start. So the first books that I read in 2022 was the Friend Zone series by Abby Jimenez. So I read them out of order, which I don't recommend. We have Life's Too Short, which is the third book. So it goes the Friend Zone, the Happy Ever After playlist, which I do not own, and then Life's Too Short. So great trilogy. No, it is standalone romances, but they're like interconnected. Highly recommend them. I gave them all 5 stars. Love them so much. They're so good. Abby Jimenez is great. She became one of my favorite authors after reading those books. And then I read Reminders of Him by Colin Hoover. I also gave that 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite books by Colin Hoover. Well, maybe not. I don't really know. I gave 5 stars, read that. And then I read Made for This Moment by Maddie Pruitt, or Madison Pruitt. She was on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Pretty sure I gave this like 4 stars. And I'd probably stand by that. Honestly, don't remember a single thing in this book, but I do think it would be good for high school girls or girls in college. Next, I read, now we're on to February. I did not read much in the beginning of the year. February, I read Beach Read by Emily Henry. I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. Super cute. The Last Thing You Told Me by Laura Dave. I gave this a 4.5, but honestly, I would probably give it like a 4, maybe less, because I didn't like the ending. So I'm like, but I did enjoy it. And then I read Cultivating the Fruit of the Spirit by Christopher J.H. Wright. Also, I gave this 5 stars, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and I don't really give out 5 stars very often, but I love this book. I feel like it gave so much insight and just, I really enjoyed it. And it's one of my favorite Christian books, or Christian fiction, or Christian nonfiction books. Then in April, or March, I didn't read anything. And then in April, all I read was It Ends With Us by Colin Hoover. Gave this 5 stars, loved it, highly recommend it. Just check trigger warnings because there's quite a lot. In May, I read If It's Perfect by Summer Dowell. I gave this 4 stars, but don't remember a single thing about it. Nothing special. I'm gonna narrow it down to a 3. I borrowed that from the library. And then I read If I Were God, I'd End All the Pain by John Dixon. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars, maybe 4. I did really enjoy it, but it is so short. I feel like you can't, I don't know, how do you rate a book that's that short? Anyways, I did really enjoy it. It's about pain, obviously. How God Allows Pain and things like that. God Bless This Mess by Hannah Brown. Didn't rate this because it's a memoir, but it was enjoyable, especially if you watch Bachelorette. Bachelor, you get some fun tea. It was enjoyable. And then I read Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. Love this book, and it kind of kickstarted my love for like reading a lot of books a month. Like I started reading a lot of books each month after I read this. I just started reading a ton. Also, I feel like Bookstagram kind of kickstarted that as well, but love this book. One of my favorites of the year, and it was great. 5 stars. Highly recommend. Now let's move on to June. So I read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I gave it 5 stars, but as I'm reflecting on it, there's a couple things that I didn't like about it. So I'm gonna narrow it down to like a 4 probably, but I did really enjoy it. I love that book. Just Last Night by Mahari. No, that's not how you say it. I can't remember how you say it. Something McFarlane. I can't remember how you say it. And I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's like a literary fiction and I really enjoyed it. But the cover looks rom-com-y, but it's definitely not a rom-com. Then I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I actually read this like 100 pages of this a couple months prior and didn't finish it, and then finished it in June, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I love Abby Jimenez's books. So, and then I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I gave this a 4.75. And I'd probably narrow it down to like a 4.25 or a 4.5 just because the beginning is pretty slow. I read The Infinity Between Us by N.S. Perkins. I gave it a 4.5. Might give it less than that because it was just like nothing special. It was a second chance romance, childhood friends and lovers, but I just didn't connect really to the characters. Then I read Who Are You Following by Sadie Huff. I gave it a 4.5. Don't remember literally a thing about this book, but I guess it is good. Like, I probably gleaned some stuff about influence and things like that, but I'd probably give it like a 4, maybe. I read the Summer I Turned Pretty series. The first one 4 stars, the second one 4 stars, and the third one 4.5, but I'd probably give them all, like the series as a whole, 4 stars. It was a good, fun time for the summer. Obviously, I read them before the show because I wanted to read them before the show came out. And then the last book I read in June, was The Roughest Draft by Emily Webberly and Austin Siegman Broca. Honestly, I enjoyed this, but I had so much trouble like rating it. So I'd probably give like a 4 stars because it was really enjoyable, but I'm not sure. Now on to July, I read The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. Really enjoyed this. I gave it a 5 stars. I'd probably give it like a 4.5 just because I like don't really remember it, but it was a good, enjoyable time. I'm trying to give less high ratings because I honestly feel like yeah, it's great to give it 5 stars, but I feel like it makes the 5-star reads that you really love not as good. Like, it dims their rating because you rated a book that you don't love as much 5 stars as well. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes any sense, but it is a fun time. I'm not giving any like spice in these books because I'm going so fast. So if you want to know the spice level, I have like posts on my Instagram for the end of the year. Most of them have the spice, but you can also DM me and I'll let you know if there's spice in them. Anyways, okay, let's continue. Next, I read Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars and I would stick to that. Loved it so much. It's like a second chance writing kind of vibe. Like, she's a writer and it's like One of Us is Famous. Loved it. And then I read Better Than the Movies by Ellen Painter. I did love this book, but I feel like I didn't love it as much as everyone else, and I didn't love it as much as the duo, so maybe like 4.5, but I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars. Then I read The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I originally gave this a 2 star, but truly there's nothing about this book I enjoyed, so I'm giving it a 1, maybe a 0. Like, I just did not like it. It's my worst book of the year. Obviously I don't like thrillers, but I've also heard that a lot of people that like thrillers don't like this book, so I'm giving it a 1, and I'm just not gonna be as kind about my ratings. Okay, then I read Addicted to You by Kristen Becker Ritchie. And then I also read Ricochet by Kristen Becker Ritchie. And I gave them both 4 stars, but I might give them like a 3.75. Well, I don't know. I really did enjoy them while I was reading them, but the series just gets better as you read. So I guess I would do a 4. It's the first 2 books in the Addicted series. And then I read The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. Love this book. Gave it 5 stars. One of my favorites of the year. So good. And then I went on my rabbit hole of reading all of Sarah Adams' books. So I read The Match. Gave it a 4.75. Loved it. So cute. Then I read The Enemy. I gave it a 4.25. And then I read another Addicted book, the 3rd book, Addicted for Now. I gave it a 4.5. And then I read The Off Limits Rule by Sarah Adams, and I gave that a 5 stars. So, and then in August, I read The Temporary Roomie by Sarah Adams. I gave that a 5 star. Love it so much. And then I read Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. I gave this a 5 stars as well. Loved it. Wait, did I feel like I maybe didn't like? I don't remember. I guess I'll stick to a 5. Maybe a 4.75 for this one. But I really did enjoy it. It's so good. I read The Christmas Clash by Suzanne Park, and I gave it a 3 star because I read it, like I got an arc of it, and I think I was just being generous, but honestly, it was okay, I guess. Like, it was not great. Not my favorite. And then I read Just My Type by Fallon Ballard. I got an arc of this as well. 5 stars. Loved it so much. And then I read one of my favorites of the year, Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. Love this book so much. So much. One of my favorites. I read Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. I gave this a 4 star, but honestly, I'm narrowing it down to like a 3.5, 3 because don't remember it or think it was that great. I also read Mad About You by, how do you say this? Pronounced Vari McFarland. And I gave this a 4 star, but honestly probably like a 3.5 because it was average, not the best, and there was not enough romance for me. Then I read Draw the Circle by Mark Batterson, and this is a devotional about prayer. I gave it 4 stars, and I do really enjoy it. It was good. I reread it. And then I read The Roommate Situation by Katie Bailey. I gave it 4 stars. It was really enjoyable and a good time. Then I read Forgot Me Twice by Corinna Taylor. 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. It was super cute. And then I read the first book in the Cowboy Sisters series. I read Kiss the Sky, gave it a 4.5. And then I read The Neighbor War, which is the second book after The Roommate Situation by Katie Bailey. I gave it a 4.5, but I'd probably give it like a 4, probably. Then I read Carrie Soto Is Back, and then I gave that a 5 star, but honestly, like that's saying a lot, and I don't think it would be a favorite of the year, so maybe like a 4.5. I did really enjoy it though. And then September, I read Hot House Flower by Kristen Becker Ritchie, which is the 5th book in the Addicted/Cowboy Sisters series. Gave it a 5 star, my favorite of the series so far. Really enjoyed it. And then I read my favorite book of the year, yours truly, by Abby Jimenez. It comes out in April 11th. Love this book, my favorite of the year, literally incredible. Like, go pre-order this immediately, so good. Am I talking way too fast? Probably. Then I read All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I gave this a 5-star. I loved it so much. It was so good, but it was very heart-wrenching. So then I read So That Happened by Katie Bailey. I gave it a 4.25 and I really enjoyed it. It was cute and fun. And then I read The Dead Romantics by Ashley Costin. Really enjoyed this as well. I gave it a 5-star, but I'd probably give it like a 4.75 because there was one thing at the end that kind of bothered me where I wish it happened differently. It was just a small thing, not really a huge thing. So probably 4.75, but I really, really enjoyed it. Then I read When in Rome by Sarah Adams, one of my favorite books of the year, 5 stars, love it so much. Then I read Neighbors Like That by Corinna Taylor. I gave this 3-star, but I'm probably gonna get like a 2.5 because it was not great. And then I read Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is a reread and I really enjoyed it. It was a great time, but I feel like I don't love this book as much as everyone else loves this book, but I did really love it. Like, I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars both times I read it, but it's not like a ultimate favorite. You know what I mean? Next, I read the Inheritance Game series, or trilogy, both words. So in, what month are we in? September, I read the first book in the series, and then in October, I read the next 2 books in the series, which is The Hawthorne Legacy and The Final Gambit, and I loved the series. I thought it was such a great time. I gave it the first one 4.5 and the second 2 5 stars, and I loved it. It was such a fun time. Like, I highly recommend the series. It was so good, and I cannot wait for the Brothers Hawthorne to come out this year. I loved it. Then I read another favorite of the year, Lisa in Love by Fallon Ballard. Loved it so much. 5 stars. So good. I reread The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary, and I'm pretty sure I gave it a 4-star when I first read it, and then I gave it like a 4.5 the second time I read it, but I honestly, I don't know. I might still give it like a 4 or 4.25. I don't really know, but it was good. Then I read another favorite of the year, It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. So good. I personally was not disappointed by that. I loved it. And then I read An Arc, Same Time Next Summer by Annabelle Monaghan. She wrote Nora Goes Off Script. Gave this a 4.5. It comes out in June. And I loved it. It was so good. Highly recommend. And you should pre-order it because it's obviously not out yet. And then I read A Love on the Brain by Allie Hazelwood. I gave this a 4.25, but I'm like rounding my other one down to a 4.5. So maybe like a 4. This was just a great time, honestly. Like, just an enjoyable experience all around. And then I read Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. Gave this 5 stars, one of my favorites of the year. So good. And then, this was a great time. This time of the year was a great time. I read Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson, and these are just so good. 2 of my favorites of the year, specifically this one. It was such a good duology. You should definitely read it. It was amazing. Then I read Merry Xmas by Courtney Walsh. I gave this 5 stars. It was so cute, so good. One of my favorite holiday romances. And then I didn't read all these in one order, but I'm just going to talk about them in order. That is the Simple Wild series, at least the first 3 books. So I read The Simple Wild, Wild at Heart, and Forever Wild, and I'm pretty sure I didn't rate the first 2 because they were quite slow. So I think overall I would give this series like a 4-star. I really enjoyed it, but the first 2 books, like the first couple hundred pages, are pretty slow. So I enjoyed it, but not my favorite. And then I read Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. It's his memoir that came out in November. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, but just check trigger warnings if you're gonna read it. And then I read Christmas Like This by Corinna Taylor. Super cute, sweet. I gave it a 4 stars. It's like a fun novella. And then I read The Do-Over by Lynn Painter, and I love this book, 5 stars. So cute. Loved it. And then I read Shatter Me by Terry Moffey, but I'm going to talk about this at the end when I finish the series, so we're just going to set that there for now. I read A Match Made at Christmas by Courtney Walsh. I gave this 5 stars, but I probably give it like a 4.5 or something because it is shorter, but I did really enjoy it. And then I read a novella from Shatter Me, which is Destroy Me, but I'll talk about that with the whole series. I read The Hollow Duel by Haley Gardner. I gave it 4 stars, really enjoyed it. A Convenient Christmas by Jodie Holford, 5 stars. Maybe like 4.75, but I really did enjoy that. Baggage Claim by Juliana Smith, I gave 5 stars. Loved it so much. Love Like Farms by B.K. Borson, also really loved it. I gave it 5 stars, but it was quite long. Like, I feel like it was a little too long. Now we are on to December. If you just watched my wrap up, you know what I read in December, but we'll go over it, you know. I read The 12 Holidays by Emma St. Clair. Literally I didn't like this. It was like 2.5, not good. Thrive by Kristen Becker Ritchie. I gave it a 4.25, but I'd probably give it like a 4 because I was kind of disappointed by it. Because everyone was talking so highly about it, I was kind of disappointed. It's the 6th book in the Addicted/Calloway Sisters series, and then I reread Before We Were Strangers. Love this book so much, one of my favorites of all time. 5 stars, a million stars, highly recommend. And then I read Where Time Stands Still by Ennis Perkins. Love this book, gave it 5 stars, and it's so good. I cried a lot, but so good. And then I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. Love this book so much. I gave it 4.5. Loved it. It was such a good, fluffy, great time. So highly recommend. And then we are getting into the best part, well, one of the best parts of my year, the Shatter Me series. I love this series so much. Literally one of my favorites, or if not, probably definitely my favorite series of the year. So good. So in November, I read Shatter Me and the first part of this, which was Destroy Me. I gave this 4 stars. I didn't really rate the novella, but actually I'd probably give that novella 4 stars too, because it's from Warner's point of view, which I really loved. And then I read in December Unravel Me. I gave it a 4.5. And then Ignite Me, I gave a 5 star, one of my favorites, or definitely my favorite of the series. Then I read Restore Me, and I gave this a 4 star. Yeah, 4 stars. Then I read Shadow Me in this novella, like Bind Up, and I really loved it. Did not rate it. Oh wait, almost forgot. I also read, after Unravel Me, I read Fracture Me, which is an Adam's point of view, which was good. I didn't rate it though. So yeah, Shadow Me, and then I read Defy Me, which I gave 4.25, which I really loved, especially the end of this. So that is all the books in the Shadow Me series that I read in 2022. I didn't finish it, but I read enough of it to know that it's my favorite, and I love it so much. So I highly recommend. Literally, I'm so glad I read that series. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. Aaron Warner, I love him so much, and I will not stop talking about him. So highly suggest the series. I can't wait to finish it. I just have 1 novella left, and I don't want it to end. Like, I'm so sad. The more distance I put between me and the Shatter Me series, the sadder I get, because I don't want to ever forget about these characters. So anyways, read that. And then the last book I read this year, or 2022, was Come Let Us Adore Him by Paul David Tripp. I actually just read the last couple devotionals on the last day of the month, but you know, really enjoyed this, gave it 4 stars. It's a really good Advent devotional if you're looking for one, so really enjoyed it. And that is all. Hope you enjoyed seeing what I read in 2022. I feel like I had a really great year. Overall, I didn't have many books that I didn't like. Most of the books that I read, I really enjoyed my experience. Even if I didn't give it 5 stars, I still enjoyed my time. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to subscribe. I'm posting all the time. I don't really have a posting schedule. I'm trying like Tuesday and Saturday, sometimes Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, but honestly, I'm just gonna post whenever. Could be Monday, could be Wednesday, who really knows. Let me know if you like the schedule or if you like just like me posting whenever. Let me know. I know it's easier for people to like know when to come back to my channel, but sometimes I just like to surprise post, you know what I mean? So anyways, you can follow me on Instagram and my Bookstagram. I post all the time over there. And I think that's it. I'm going to stop talking because I've been talking for so long. I'm gonna drink some water, and I'm gonna see you in my next video. Bye.